when did you have time to write a book? Are you going to do it this year? And I said, yes, this is the year that I am going to write the book. You have to make that declaration out loud to other people. Agents that have all the talent, agents that have all of the drive, but they never create a framework. All of the AI and all of the technology that exists right now has made marketing level playing field for everyone. Needs to shine brighter than ever before. All things leverage your X factor. Hi, everybody. Welcome to X Factor Marketing. Today's edition is a solo pod, and we're talking all things leverage your X factor. Yes, my book. I'm so excited that it finally launched. Now, leading up to the launch, we gave you a tease of behind the scenes, all the stuff that we put into actually launching the book on March 10th. And it was super exciting to share all of that with you. And I want to continue that sort of behind the scenes look at the book by sharing some of the things that went into actually writing the book. So on today's solo pod, I'm going to share the when, the how, the why, and then wrap up with a little bit about the what, meaning the what is the X factor framework that I talk about in the book. So let me start with the question that I have gotten asked a lot about the book. And that is, when did you have time to write a book? So the when question. Well, the when did I have time to write a book? It was a little bit of time here and a little bit of time there. And it all added up into eventually ending up with a book. The truth is, writing a book has been on my to-do list and my bucket list for a number of years. And people would say to me, Wendy, you should write a book. And I was always so flattered anytime that somebody would say that. And deep down, it was like, yes, I want to write a book. So at the beginning of 2025, my husband and I were sitting down and doing something that we started doing at the beginning of every year, planning out our year. And there's two things that we do at the beginning of this planning session. We plan our vacations and our personal time on the calendar year. We block that off. Something I learned a long time ago. If you don't block off your personal time first, it never happens because everything else gets put into the year and it doesn't happen. So we block off our personal time. Second thing that we do in that exercise is talk about what are our goals for the year? What do we want to achieve? And we each set some personal goals for ourselves. Now, usually they have a lot to do with fitness. And if you know us, you know that we're both athletes and we both have a lot of races and things that we normally do. One of my goals for last year was writing the book. And in all honesty, he pushed me on that one because I had been talking about this idea that I had for the book. And this idea had been sort of marinating. And it would come up in conversation and we would talk about it. He was like, you have to start writing the book. And in the course of this sort of planning discussion we had for 2025, he was like, is this the year? Are you going to do it this year? And I said, yes, this is the year that I am going to write the book. So I made that commitment. I didn't have a plan yet for what I was going to do, but I made the commitment. So that was at the beginning of the year. In February, we had a planning meeting for the board and for the trustees of EXP's Extend a Hand charitable organization in Toronto. And during that meeting, we were planning out fundraising and we were planning what the vision and the mission is, sort of talking about the Extend a Hand charity. And for those of you that may not be familiar, Extend a Hand raises money to support our EXP agents when they may be in need. So typically when disaster strikes or medical needs strike, agents can get a grant for financial need. And if you think about some of the things that have happened as of late, we've been through the LA fires, we've been through hurricanes. It certainly has been a time where extend a hand has been an essential part of people's lives when they have needed support. So it is something that is near and dear to me, and I'm a trustee on the Extend a Hand board. So during that planning meeting, I made for the first time the declaration that I was intending to write a book and that I would like to donate the proceeds of the book to support Extend a Hand. Now, as I was sharing this, it was a big moment for me because I was saying it out loud to somebody other than my husband. And I want you to take this away from the podcast today. If you have a commitment, if you have a dream, if you have something big in your life that you want to accomplish, you have to make that declaration out loud to other people. It is a big part of accountability. It is a big part of how things get done, is saying them out loud. Now, I don't know if the Extend a Hand board and trustees really knew how big of a deal that was to me internally, but it definitely was. I also don't know if they really knew I was going to do it or not. But those of you listening, and I know if you're listening to this, you are like me. You are highly driven. You are a high D, type A personality. When you set your mind to doing something, you're going to figure out how to do it. That's part of your X factor. So I made the commitment. I said it out loud. I came home. Now I had to figure out, how was I going to write this book? So now we get into the how. So I'd had the idea of X factor marinating in my mind for quite some time. As I said, it was something I would talk about and I was thinking about. So I had to now start to bring it to life. And for me, that meant that I had to find someone to help me sort of pull all of that out and get it on a screen, get it on paper, as we would say. So I came home from that meeting with the Extend a Hand team, and I found myself a book coach. And I knew that I needed a coach to help me bring the book to life. So second thing I want you to take away from today's podcast is find a coach. If you're looking to accomplish something that is new to you, find a coach to help you build that skill and find somebody that's done it that can help you move along quicker in the learning process. So I started working with my book coach. I showed up to the first meeting with my book coach with the entire outline of the book done. I had like almost 20 pages of this outline done. It was like chapters and bullet points, and I just poured everything out of my head into this outline. I'm going to share that he was super shocked. He was like, that's not typically how people show up to their first meetings with him with a full outline. But I like I said, I'd been marinating on the idea for quite some time. So here's how I worked with my book coach. We set aside 30 minutes every week. It was early in the morning, so it was before my working day started. We would come into that meeting and we would talk about a segment of the book. He would interview me and ask me questions. We would record it. We would transcribe it and then turn it into pages. I would then edit the pages and turn them into sort of the story of the book. That would roll into our next 30-minute meeting. And we would rinse and repeat that process until eventually we got a chapter. Then we would look at through the entire chapter. And then I would edit that chapter. And then we would rinse and repeat until we got the next chapter. Eventually, we got several chapters, and then we got the book. At that point, it was about editing the entire book. And I'm going to share that this is where, for me, it got really difficult because now I got stuck in that it's kind of almost done. So I started sort of like reworking. Like I reworked the entire first chapter. I actually changed the entire first chapter and changed the framework of the F. And we'll talk a little bit about the framework. So I changed that framework and went back to the drawing board on that. I completely reworked and rewrote the community chapter because I wasn't quite happy with that. So I got deep into the editing, and that like really took some time. But that's that perfectionist part of putting yourself out there, and you want it to be really good, and you're worried like, what will people think? And that's where like you've got to get past that at some point, because you can get really stuck there a long time. And I had to give myself some self-coaching. You know how the coaches will say that you can get stuck between 80% and 100%, like trying to get it too perfect. So I had to give myself like some self-talk there because I got really, really stuck in that phase. So eventually I had to pull myself past that and say like, okay, we're good. We can move forward here. So that is sort of how the book got written and how we worked through the book. We did that all throughout last year. So let me talk about the why. So in the book, I tell a story about Alex. And Alex is a hardworking real estate professional. But Alex is feeling empty. Alex is feeling on her way to burnout. Alex is feeling like all this work is not fulfilling, is not sort of feeling meaningful. And I've seen many Alexes. I bet you have too. I bet you felt like Alex. I bet you might feel like Alex now. Alex is so indicative of many agents in our industry, agents that have all the talent, agents that have all of the drive, agents that have everything that it takes to have a long, fulfilling, meaningful career as a real estate professional, but they never create a framework to have a career that is fulfilling for them long term. They end up sort of having this spike in their career and then burning out and either leaving the industry or just maybe staying licensed, but not really thriving in the industry. And for me, that breaks my heart because I see those talented people with that spark, with that X factor, and it just doesn't last long term. So that is why I wanted to create the X Factor framework. And that framework of the X Factor is intended to create a proven system where agents can scale smarter, live better, and build businesses that last. So the X Factor framework is a 6-part framework. It's focus, action, community, technology, operations, and resilience. And each level builds off of the next into your business so that you can build an enjoyable business that is fun, that allows you to have the life and the business that you want for the duration of this career that you want. Because this business can be an incredible business and it should be fun and it should be fulfilling and it should be all of the great things that it can afford. But you have to have a framework that you can build your business around that will allow that to happen and allow your uniqueness to shine. Because here is the moment that we're in, and the reason I feel that this is so important right now. And one of the reasons I was motivated to write the book right now in this moment and this time in our industry. And the analogy I use is that think of a rope. We have this rope and there's two ends of the rope, and we're getting pulled on these two ends. And here's what's happening on one end is that all of the AI and all of the technology that exists right now has made marketing level playing field for everyone. Everybody can be the perfect marketer right now. You just type it into AI and you can create the perfect marketing campaign. So what that has meant is that our uniqueness, our X factor, your personality, what makes you different from every other real estate professional out there needs to shine brighter than ever before. That is what will make people choose to work with you over any other real estate professional out there. That is why video on social media, that is why social media, that is why trust is so much valuable than ever before. But that is a lot of pressure. That is more pressure than ever before on us as real estate professionals, as marketers. So that is one side of the rope that is pulling on us. The other side of the rope that is pulling on us is an industry in change. Regulations are changing. Lawsuits are changing things. The market is more challenging than it's ever been. The rope is pulling us, and that tension is so difficult for us that the X Factor framework is what can help us find the balance and the relief of that tension. And if we don't find relief in that tension, you are going to burn out and you are not going to have the enjoyment and the fulfillment from your career that you deserve. So now is the time to invest in finding that framework to find a career that is going to give you enjoyment and fulfillment, because that's what we all deserve. And I do talk specifically about real estate because that is my passion. That is the career that I have grown up with and I've invested my entire professional life in. But this 6-part framework will apply to anyone in any career. So think about that as you think about your business and how it relates in all different elements of your business, both in real estate and beyond that, as you think of the 6-part framework. So let me tell you the 6 parts again: focus, action, community, technology, operations, and resilience. That is your X Factor framework. And that's what we talk about in the book. So what's next? So next, I'm kicking off a speaking tour and fundraising campaign in partnership with the EXP Spring Rally host and Extend a Hand. So across the US from March 17th to April 16th, we have 21 spring rallies. So in 21 different cities, we have our rallies. We'll be promoting and fundraising for Extend a Hand at every single rally. So you can support Extend a Hand during those rallies. If you make a donation to Extend a Hand of $25 during the rally, you'll get a copy of Leverage Your X Factor book. So if you're attending a rally, which I hope you are, if you're an EXP agent, or even if you're not, you can attend the rallies. Please make a contribution and support EXP Extend a Hand and the rallies. You can get more information on the rallies at regionalrallies.exprealty.com. So all the information on the rallies are there. I'll be attending many of those rallies in person and talking about the book and about marketing and building a brand and leveraging your X Factor. I'm also available to speak at other events on podcasts about the book and about leveraging your X Factor. So if you'd like to inquire about that, visit my website, wendyforsythe.com. And I'd like to give a huge thank you to 3 particular people that supported me along the way in making the book possible. Nor Marzuk, who edited the entire book for me, and it has been a huge champion along the way. Thank you so much, Nor. Jenny Berger, who did the entire design of the book cover. Thank you so much, Jenny. I couldn't have done it without you. And Mindy Grubb, who is our Extend a Hand Executive Director and has been such a wonderful partner in bringing this whole project to life. Ladies, thank you so much for bringing this project to life with me. I so appreciate you. To everyone that's listening, I hope this behind the scenes has been fun for you to get an insight into what happened in bringing the book to life. Thank you for listening. Go buy the book. We're excited to share everything that will happen next. If you're thinking of writing a book, I hope this has been helpful to understand the process. Definitely, you should write a book, share your influence, lean into your X factor. Thank you so much for listening.